But no, thanks to CME for inviting me today to talk about KID. I think it's been a while since KID really presented an update at this forum. But yes, today I will speak a little bit about the KID Closeure. Just a little, I'm going to start the presentation with some facts on Glencore and KID. So Glencore does operate across Canada. We do employ 12,000 employees and contractors across various mines and metal processing facilities in Canada. We mine nickel, copper, zinc, cobalt, and steel-making coal. So we're the largest producer of refined copper and largest seaborne exporter of steel-making coal, and the largest producer of refined zinc. What I want to note on this map here, all the green spots. Now, if we're going to talk about context of Closeure, the green spots are all legacy sites. So we do have a rich and deep experience with mine closure throughout Canada. So that's just a show of commitment that Glencore has in closing, not a commitment in closing them, but closing them sustainably and safely. Our history in Canada, we've been mining for over 100 years. You could see in the 1960s, KID operations began mining, so more specifically, 1966. And as next year, we will be celebrating our 60th anniversary. So, more about KID operations. We are the deepest base metal mine in the world, so we're operating 3 kilometers below surface. We are the closest point to the center of the earth. We're connected by a rail line to the mill of 27 kilometers. And throughout the 60 years, we've mined over 171 million tons of ore. Currently, we have 640 employees, 50 contractors, and over the 60 years of mining, we've employed more than 20,000 people in the area. So that's a lot of families that we've fed throughout our mining life. In the past 10 years, we've spent more than 450 million Canadian dollars in the Timmins area. And the current life of mine is the end of 2026. So if we want to break down how we contributed to society over the 60 years, in terms of copper, we've created 3.8 million tons, 9.7 million tons of zinc, and 13,000 tons of silver. And if we wanted to relate that to the building of a car, well, a car has 50 pounds of copper, more or less. So if we took all our copper and put that into making cars, we would have built 190 million cars throughout our producing years. And with zinc is used to protect cars against rust, and over these years, we were able to create 600 million cars with the zinc we've produced. KID operations, again, is the deepest base metal mine in the world, so it does have its strengths, but also its challenges. Strong working relationships between the engineering and operations make this mine a success. They need to be flexible, and it's important to keep the sequence. So well planned and well executed to be successful. And this time and time again has been proven to create a safer work environment. However, with its successes and strength, there are some challenges that we continue to face. The distance, being the deepest base metal mine in the world, it could take about 1 hour for employees to reach their working phase or environment. So, it takes a lot of time and production away from the day. Geotech, it's quite technical and complicated. I'm not a geotech engineer, so I can't speak to that. But the deeper we go, the more complicated it is getting. operating over 60 years. We do have an aging infrastructure. However, we are still committed and have been committed to spending capital money to update this infrastructure as we go. Again, we've seen that by making sure that we have well-maintained equipment, that we continue to bring safe tons up to surface. And of course, the working environment is challenging. The deeper we go, the hotter it gets. So we need to continue making sure that these work areas are cool, well ventilated. So there are times where, we have to establish our work rest regimes where workers are working 15 minutes out of the hour. So imagine you're traveling an hour to get to your working phase, but you could only work 15 minutes out of the hour. It becomes quite a challenge to continue to produce. KIT Operations has exceptional environmental performance. I'll just speak to the first point there, 100% compliance to provincial and federal water discharges for metals, suspended solids, and toxicity for 16 consecutive years. And we continue to improve the water quality that we discharge into the Porcupine River. And safety is one of our proud successes over the 60 years. In fact, last year, despite some of the challenging news that employees have received, we continue to be a very safe operating mine. Last year, we hit our record over 60 years for lost time injuries and injury rate. You can see on the graph there, last year we hit 0.2 LTI per 200,000 hours. And you're safer to work at the KIT Operations than you are at nursing, than you are in providing social assistance, etc. So we are a very safe working environment. So, Mine 5 and Closeure. So, in 2018, Glencore spent a lot of resources to explore and to try and develop a Mine 5 extension. Some of the core challenges that came up throughout the study was a prolonged ramp up. So to ramp up the production from a deeper mine could take time, and due to challenging technical conditions, the rock stress would face the highest rock stress globally, requiring a slower mining sequence. And the hot conditions. As I mentioned, mining at depth is quite hot, and it's become quite a challenge to work in these environments. So the bottom line is that although the ore body does extend past the current mine workings and at similar grades, the study has not found a viable solution to mine it. And in this graph, you can see the mill operations throughput. So you can see we've peaked in the mid-1980s with our production at 4.5 million tons a year. And since then, there's been a steady decline to the current production of 1.2 million tons a year. So we'll be milling 1.2 tons a year this year and into next year. So in November 2024, we did announce that we would be closing the mine in December 30th, 31st in 2026. And ultimately, these are the timelines that we are working with in the closure planning space. In late 2024, we did commence our feasibility, early works, and design process. And the few next slides will cover some of these, the different aspects in the closure planning. But ultimately, what we're currently projecting is that peak closure construction and building decommissioning will take place over 3 to 5 years, starting in 2027. So part of closure planning is closure readiness, and we are approaching this in 2 phases. The first one is kind of a ramp down and early works process. What do we need to do to prepare the mine for closure? So part of that is understanding the assets that we have on site and coming up with plans and procedures, schedules to de-energize and decontaminate the structures and equipment infrastructure to make this safe for the next stage, which is decommissioning. Through this process, we could identify divestment opportunities and also opportunities to start progressive rehab. So if there's some areas in the mine site or with the plant site that we could prepare for to start making these areas safe, the more we could do that with the quicker we could do that with a full site complement, the better. And it's always good to use the site subject matter experts with experience and knowledge to execute this work. Part of the closure readiness is also to design and construct infrastructure to become independent from the current operations. So we have all these nice buildings, they're aging infrastructure, but we want to become independent from those buildings so that we have a site team to plan and execute closure. So we're looking at, building field complexes to house workers, the project team, and the monitoring team. But there's also other critical components that we can't stop operating at the onset of closure, such as water treatment. So how do we transition to continue water treatment once we start decommissioning the plant site and administration buildings and all our current operating infrastructure? Closure readiness includes inventory downsizing, mineral and non-mineral. So how do we get the last ton safely out of the mine and processed through the mill? And what does schedule and timeline look like for that? And then archiving and digitizing of documents. Phase 2 is understanding the site complement requirements. So how many people do you need to execute a closure project? How many people do you need to monitor and operate the site? What's the human resource strategy behind engaging people and hiring people for that process? And development of closure operating monitoring plans. So these will all be planned out this year and executed by next year. The closure study and development of execution plans. So how do we make the site physically and chemically stable? Are currently being designed through our feasibility study. We see some timelines here, early works design, and I hope that's not for me to stop talking, but additional investigations as well for data collection that would feed into the feasibility study for the design work. That would be done by November. We're still looking at key trade-offs and closure optimization, so there are a number of options analysis that we are undergoing to ensure that we have the best closure plan moving forward. Early works construction between April and October next year, and the completion of the feasibility study and project execution plans to be by November of next year. And as I mentioned before, we're looking to execute earthworks building decommissioning as early as 2027. We also initiated a social platform for this. So we are doing stakeholder engagement to understand our social transition impacts to the community. And in 2024, we completed a socioeconomic impact assessment. That was purely a desktop exercise, and part of this year's stakeholder engagement is to facilitate focus groups to ground truth the findings of that socioeconomic impact assessment. The assessment looks at dependencies. Sorry, time is up. But looking at dependencies and the resiliency of the community, and understand what we can do to provide support to the community at Closeure. And the last slide here is our most important stakeholder is our people. We wouldn't have had a successful 60-year run without our employees. So we are definitely taking care of them. We recently went through a retiree transition where some people left the business, and that allows opportunities for a younger workforce to upskill and get additional experience before moving on to their next careers. We are going to assist employees in creating or updating their resumes to better prepare themselves, and we will have workshops that help build their interview skills. And in 2026, job fairs will be designed to help facilitate a transition for these employees to other companies or employment. So we are ensuring responsible closure practice and are open to appropriate alternative site usage. So we understand that mining is a temporary land use. There's still some opportunities at the KID sites. So we do like to communicate that we are open for business and ready to talk to parties on future transition of the site.